Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is a stick figure historian, and we are about to embark on the last bit of our journey through the history of Texan independence. We wrapped up last week with the Battle of San Jacinto and the capture of Santa Anna. After his capture, the Mexican dictator had sent orders to his top general, Filosola. Yesterday evening, we had an unfortunate encounter. Retreat back to Bexar until I send further orders. Well, it didn't take much for General Filosola to read between Santa Anna's lines about what had really happened out there in San Jacinto. An unfortunate encounter was a bit of an understatement. Mexico's might had not triumphed this time. Jose de Urrea was also present when the orders arrived. No, he argued, let us keep fighting. Why should we stop when we have only just begun? Houston does not have many men. We could easily defeat him. But Filosola wouldn't hear of it. We shall do as the general says, he replied firmly. And there was nothing else Urrea could do about it. He was forced to follow the rest of the troops back to Bexar. And a terrible march it was. Not only were the spirits of the troops battered in the face of defeat, but the spring rains had turned the roads to a sticky sludge that snagged at their feet and bogged down wagons. And the lack of food that had plagued them all along the campaign only grew worse as they went. Whilst the remainder of his army suffered on their retreat, Santa Anna was busy attending meeting after meeting with Sam Houston, President Burnett, and the other Texan leaders to hammer out the Treaty of Velasco. When all was said and done, the Rio Grande would become the official border of Texas, and all Mexican troops must cross over to the south of it. And actually, the Rio Grande still stands as the southern border of Texas to this day. Secondarily, all prisoners of war on both sides would be released unharmed. This included Santa Anna as well, who would be safely escorted to Veracruz. As a token of gratitude, the Mexican dictator promised that upon his return to his homeland, he would do his best to influence the Mexican Congress to officially recognize the independence of Texas. Well, people can promise a lot of things, but it's not always easy to live up to a promise, especially when it involves things we can't control. Around the same time that Santa Anna was promising to get the Mexican Congress to accede to Texan independence, that same Congress received news of his defeat from Filosola, and they were not happy. The Congress told Filosola that he should have listened to Urrea and gone back to fight. They said that since Santa Anna was a prisoner of war, he had been forced to give the order, and therefore it didn't count. Filosola's position as general was taken away, and Urrea was made head commander of the army instead. Urrea wasted little time preparing for reinvasion. A full 6,000 men rallied behind him in Matamoros, and all was ready. But even the best laid plans can't escape circumstance. Republican rebellion suddenly flared all over Mexico, and the great army which Urrea had assembled was broken up and called away to the disturbance of their own homeland. It wasn't until the 1st of June that Santa Anna began his journey for home. The Texan officials tried to board him on a ship, but they were followed all along the way by angry soldiers. The blood already shed at San Jacinto had not yet cooled their tempers. They wanted the man himself to die, that perpetrator of the two terrible massacres which had become their battle cry. Even their hero, Mirabeau Lamar, couldn't talk reason into them. For Santa Anna's safety, the journey was postponed. But even this did no good. 3 days later, the Mexican dictator was arrested by a band of soldiers. The event was all that was needed to spark an already fomenting coup, and it seemed for a time that Texas was about to descend into administrative chaos. President Burnett knew they needed to act quickly. The Texan government hadn't been set up by popular vote, and the people at large had never really been happy with it. It was time to change that. New elections were held, and Sam Houston was chosen as president instead. Well, what did you think was gonna happen, dude? A Congress was also selected, and the Constitution was finally officially ratified. It worked. The threatening thunder of the coup died away. Santa Anna did eventually return home. Houston sent him to Washington, D.C. by land, and he took ship on the East Coast from there instead. Of course, he hoped to resume his role as dictator of Mexico upon his arrival. But that was not to be. He was very quickly deposed, and it took long years of more military prowess and political campaigning before he would rise again to power. As for Texas, I suppose this is where you might think I would say things went on happily ever after for the new republic. In a way, they did, I suppose, for from now on, it would remain independent. For some time afterward, they lived in impending fear of another Mexican invasion, and more American volunteers poured into Texas after the Battle of San Jacinto than had ever come before. But of course, it was all unneeded. Eventually, they came to learn of the revolutions that were plaguing the heart of Mexico, and the vigilance along the border was relaxed. But to say that things were truly happy in Texas wouldn't be quite the truth. For independence doesn't always bring equity and freedom. For the Tejanos, those are the Mexicans that live in Texas, remember? Life became more difficult after the political change. All of them living between the Guadalupe and Nueces rivers, that's this area right here, were told that they must leave their homes and either go to Mexico or East Texas. The Texans didn't trust them and were afraid that they would help the Mexicans if they were to invade again, you see. Those Tejanos who refused to leave were forced to do so. White settlers came in after them and took the farms and ranches for themselves. Texas remained an independent republic for 9 years. But soon they began to consider the benefits of being allied with their great northern neighbor. In 1845, the United States voted to accept them into the Union. Yeah, shocking, I know. Nobody saw that coming. Certainly that wasn't the goal all along. Heh, heh. But before the Texans accepted the offer, a message came from Mexico City. If you will remain separate from the United States, we will officially acknowledge you as independent. You see, for all these years, Mexico had never truly agreed that Texas had won her independence. They still saw that land as a rebellious province of Mexico that had been snatched away from them by violence. But Texas was still of use to them as a sort of protection and border from the powerful United States, and they could little afford to lose that. So they tried by peace now to win the Texans to their cause. But it was too late. The Texans rejected the offer, and the Lone Star took its place among the other 27 in the quickly growing flag of America. And so began another conflict along the Rio Grande, the Mexican-American War. But that's a story for another day. For now, we're going to say goodbye to America for a little bit and cross over the pond to... Are you ready for this? Scotland! Oh yeah! I've been planning this literally for over a year, and we've got some really awesome stories to cover in the next few months. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.